Welcome to the crypto trading channel. My name is Stu. Guys, Bitcoin has been seeing a bit of a rejection and honestly not all too surprising. For those of you following along on my live streams and in my private Telegram, you guys may have noticed that the majority of traders on social media turned bearish right at my support level where I was TPing shorts rather than entering them, just as most traders started celebrating the bounce after we hit my bounce targets. This is very common and a perfect example of why the STUBER fib strategy is so good at finding bull traps as well as bear traps. We've basically been seeing this exact thing play out time and time again, basically since we started our downtrend back in October. In my opinion, sure, Bitcoin could go higher, but so far we haven't gotten anywhere close to breaking the lower high structure on this trending 4-hour structure. The lower high sitting at about 77K, which I've been talking about on many recent streams. And the further we zoom out, guys, onto the daily and the weekly and stuff like that, which I'll get into in a sec, just the more resistance that Bitcoin has up ahead. So in my opinion, the celebrations that we are seeing based on this bounce are very much so premature at this point. The fact that we got rejected so swiftly from my 214 bounce target, that fib there from this fib pull, basically, since we got such a swift rejection there, it tells me that there still could be a lot of weakness in the market. And guys, of course, for those of you interested in seeing way more examples of how I'm looking at market structure, just some of my trade setups, some strategies that I like using, warnings, and like I said, just market structure in general, and so on. Be sure to scan the QR code on the screen to gain access to my private Telegram, which will also grant you free unlimited algo bot trading as well due to our exclusive partnership with Prime Automation. So yeah, guys, like I said, on the 4-hour, we never even got close to the 77K trending resistance, right? Yeah, it's great that we saw some signs of life. We saw the bulls kind of chop around a little bit, but really, even this range here, we never broke any structure for the bullish side of things, in my opinion. The fact that we had this structure, and I know I probably sound like a broken record because I keep saying it, but I think it's important, and especially for those who haven't been in my live streams previously, we had that low, we have this lower low. The highest point between the two is right here at 77K. So unfortunately, until that level breaks, there is no signs of this downtrend being broken for me. And as we zoom out, like I said, to longer time frames, it actually becomes even a little worse, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's nice to see structure doing structure things, right? People who are celebrating this bounce here. I mean, you guys know that I was pointing this out as a potential retest since basically even when we were trading way back here. I said it's still very possible that we go and retest support. So this bounce, it's not that this was bullish by any means, at least in my opinion. Not that it was bad. It just wasn't anything to celebrate because all that happened was we got a bounce from a very specific and very obvious buy level, right? A very obvious buy and bounce level, the 786, although it's not a perfect Stuber fib because we hadn't broke the lower high, so we don't have that confluence of structure favoring it. We still did come back to that support level at least. And I did get into a little bit of a little later. I never did take that perfect entry, although, man, that would have been a perfect entry. But I did get in. I can't remember where it was. I know I had that in. Where did I end up getting in? Yeah, basically just a little bit higher when we had this little micro higher low set. Basically, we had a mini Stuber fib pull there, so got into something, but I closed it. I closed the entire thing. Usually I like to keep part of my position running even after hitting some of my targets, but we hit my first target, we hit my second target, and the fact that we started getting rejected, and on the lower time frames you see it very clearly, since we got rejected at such a perfect target level once again, that was just basically reason for me to end up closing my long position. I still have part of my short running from, I actually don't have it on my 4-hour chart anymore, apparently. However, I do have a short still from 89.9K. And that would basically, was that from this guy? Yeah, that was from this STUBER fib back here, basically, which I also shared live in the Telegram. Beautiful short. Maybe some of you guys took it with me. Maybe some of you guys are still holding a chunk of that position with me. It's currently close to a 700% profit on that guy. But I do only have about 5% still running, because obviously taking profits along the way, but willing to hold on to a little bit just in case we end up hitting some of my bigger macro targets, right? So I want to, it just kind of helps keep a level head when I know that I have that position still open at this point. So just basically for ease of mind, I love keeping that guy open. But yeah, I also took a bit of a scalp recently. It was a level that I mentioned earlier in my Telegram as well. But yeah, basically got up to that 214 fib target, and the importance of the 214 target is basically if I end up pulling the opposite fib, so where we got our bearish pivot there to where we have bottomed out so far along that purple box there. Notice where that 214 target landed, right at the opposite 786 basically. So that's kind of the reasoning for that 214 level all the time. But yeah, absolutely beautiful to see. Like, nothing that happened was unpredictable, right? It's just all very healthy price action, in my opinion. Maybe not the direction that people want to consider healthy. A lot of people only consider it healthy if it's moving to the upside. But me, as far as a trader, an actual trader and trading goes, as long as market structure is respecting market structure, you know, lower highs or lower lows confirming lower highs and basically seeing rejections at those retests. That's all very predictable price action. So I'm loving what I'm seeing. Just bringing up some indicators. I haven't looked at these on the 4 hour today, but bringing up the 3D trend indicator on Chart Prime, we do technically have some potential support here with this indicator. And that is something that I will mention here just on the very micro trend here. Let's just erase those fibs to clean things up. Is if we're just looking at the micro trend, so just where we started our little rally here, notice that the most micro structure we have on this little run, this would have been our high. We saw a little pullback, right? We got our red candle, and then we have a higher high here. So at this point on this micro trend, we do have a confirmed higher low on this trend right here, which is right about where we're sitting. And we do have this Chart Prime support lining up with that as well. So I don't want to completely rule out the bulls at this point. It's just that I don't really have hopium thinking that, oh, we're about to go parabolic or anything like that, right? Just approaching the market with a level head. So guys, if you do appreciate me approaching the market with a level head and just looking and trading the charts for what they are, rather than on emotions and tweets and announcements and headlines and that sort of thing, do me a favor, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. But yeah, even if we end up dropping this, so here's the unfortunate part is if we drop this level, there is technically another potential setup, just because obviously we broke this little structure here. So there could be a smaller fib pull, something like this, where we end up coming down to this fib pocket and finding support. As well as we could get a retest of the full range, right? We could still be just basically coming back down to retest support of this, or even at this point, since we already got a bounce off the purple support box, it's very possible that we end up coming down and setting new lows, even if it's going to turn into a bullish move where we get some sort of a fake out liquidity grab, something like that, swing fail. It's still possible that we set a new low and then see some sort of a recovery. But obviously anything is possible. We'll just have to see. It's not so much that we have to come down to these levels, but basically a few things to watch for if we do is I myself at this point, being we haven't hit my macro targets yet for important weekly support at this point, I am still a lot more gun shy on the bullish side of things. I'm having a harder time pulling the trigger on longs. My short positions are heavier than my long positions. I'm still holding that bearish bias, but yeah, there is potential support. And basically, whether or not I end up taking some longs from these levels down here, I would still be treating it as a buy level, or buy levels rather than shorting into that support. Even if I'm bearish as we approach those levels, I would want to see some sort of a change in structure before looking for new shorts, as at least when considering it on a swing position, right? Something like the 4 hour, obviously zooming into the 5 minute, there's going to be plenty of opportunities between now and then. But yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised to see us come down and test this green support box down here, but we'll obviously have to see what happens. Bringing up the market dynamics pro indicator by chart prime. Let's just bring up this, and I believe the only thing I have active on this is the money flow point of control. And at this point, oh, it's actually very high up there. So once again, even if we see a very strong bounce in the market, there's obviously levels of interest for resistance significantly higher. Obviously, that would be a huge move either way, but that's something to watch for way in the future. Right now, it's not all that important. Let's bring up the Market Oracle Pro indicator and look for these reactor bands here. You can see that even where my 214 fib target lined up for that bounce, notice that it lined up with this indicator resistance. And so far, the fact that we have both of these red reactor bands, basically, the fact that we are below both of those with still trending bearish structure here, basically that's just another big red flag that I don't think there's anything worth celebrating at this point. If the price can reclaim these indicators here and basically flip them into support and start staircasing higher, fantastic. At that point, we can consider the possibility of a bigger move to the upside. But just right now, especially the fact that we have that overlapping confluence at a target level like that from the bounce, just once again, guys, it's just premature to be celebrating any sort of bullishness in the market at this point, if you ask me. Zooming out a little bit, actually, I want to take a look at the daily here, because the daily lower high on the trend is actually a little bit higher. On the 4 hour, it's sitting at 77K, but on the daily, it's actually a little bit higher. You can see it right here at about 79K, between 79 and 80K, basically 79.4K. But basically just the reasoning for that is that we had our little bounce here, right? So that was a low, and we obviously broke below that. Our next bounce was down here, so that's our lower low. That means the highest point between the two is our confirmed lower high, and that is sitting at about 79.3, 79.4K. Would be that confirmed lower high on the daily trend. So something to watch for there if we end up climbing that high, obviously. On the weekly, it gets even more so that, hey, even if we go higher than that, okay, Stu, we broke that, we're bullish, we're going to the moon, right? Not necessarily, because we zoom out again, we look at the actual macro chart here, looking at the weekly for what the market cycle actually is. And you can see that we have on this trend, we have a confirmed lower high way up at 98K. So we need to invalidate this level for us to have any hopes of reversing this macro trend at this point, because obviously same thing. We had our low, we have a lower low, confirmed lower high on the trend. Even if we end up breaking that, and guys, I know I'm sounding like a Debbie Downer here, but even if we break that level, consider the possibilities that there is also a bearish STUBER that we could end up getting rejected at it as well. That's not to say that, guys, that there is no bullish hope for the market or anything like that. And for those of you guys here with me, I assume you guys are actual traders trading with leverage and that sort of thing, or even just spot trading. Honestly, doesn't really matter. But as actual traders, I mean, yeah, there's obviously plenty of opportunities to be had in either direction on these types of moves, because the weekly would obviously take a long time to play out for any of these moves either way. But basically, you can see here that I also have confirmed bearish pivot here. My reasoning for that is because we basically lost this structure. So that's where we lost our micro trend basically on the weekly. So actually a macro trend, but that confirms this as our bearish pivot. Whereas right now, this white line down here, notice that I have not a confirmed pivot because we have not broken a lower high or anything like that. So at this point, it's just the current range low, basically. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. I still really have a feeling that we're going to come and test the STUBER fib on the macro scale, which would be down all the way around 40K. I know it's becoming a little bit popular for people throwing out that 40K target, so I don't want to be that guy who's just hopping on that train. But you guys know, for those of you who have been here with me, you know I've been calling for 40K since, I think, October. Actually, yeah, I think it was actually 2 days before the October 10th crash. that I was talking about this possibility that we come all the way back down and test these levels. So it's not that I'm just getting bearish now after the majority of the move has played out. It's just at this point, I'm sticking with the trend until it ends. But no, guys, I mean, you guys may even remember that in the Telegram as well as live on stream, I was talking about shorting at 125.2K. Absolutely beautiful. And I have been focused on my bearish bias ever since that, basically. And if you think that we can't hit that Stuber fib for the market cycle, just understand that so far, and not that it has to happen again, but every single market cycle has come back to that Stuber fib pocket in their bear markets. So I don't want to say that it's not a possibility, because anybody who's been in crypto for more than an entire market cycle knows that absolutely anything can happen. And as soon as you start to think that something's impossible, that's likely when it's going to end up happening. So yeah, I think it's absolutely possible we go lower. I'm not saying that, obviously that's a lot different than people saying that, oh, I'm not buying anything until 40K, anything like that. No, as I'm taking shorts, as I'm taking trades in general, I'm DCAing into my spot positions, because basically anytime the market gets cut in half like this, or anytime Bitcoin gets cut in half, rather, altcoins obviously significantly more. But anytime Bitcoin gets cut in half, I just think it's a good time to start DCAing, basically. So I don't mind throwing some profits into some spot holdings, basically. So although I'm expecting lower prices, I'm setting myself up either way, right? I will, if we end up hitting this Stuber fib pocket down here, just like how I traded on the 5-minute or the 1 hour or the 4 hour, that's a buy level for me. So although the headlines would be saying that Bitcoin's dead, and I will have friends messaging me laughing about Bitcoin and, all that sort of stuff, or asking what happened to Bitcoin and all the panic that's involved, that will likely all line up together, and that will be an excellent buy signal, in my opinion. Taking a look at Ethereum, you can see that we very much like Bitcoin. This would be the lower high structure on the 4 hour right now, very similar to Bitcoin's 77K level, except notice that a lot of altcoins, in this case Ethereum, we have actually reached that Stuber fib pocket, whereas on the 4 hour for Bitcoin, let me actually bring that up. Let me throw that bearish structure from this confirmed lower high on the 4 hour from this level here. You notice that we never did quite reach that Stuber fib pocket, right? So a little bit of weakness. We never even made it up that high, whereas some altcoins did. Like Ethereum tested it perfectly, and multiple times, you guys. This has actually played out as a setup multiple times. We tested the fib pocket here, got our first target. Tested the fib pocket here, first target, second target. Fib pocket here, first target, working our way to the second target. So this setup, this Stuber fib on the 4 hour for Ethereum has already played out several times. So I don't know if it's going to end up setting new lows from here. I mean, if we end up getting back up to this level again, that's getting to be to the point where we're testing that resistance an awful lot, and I'd assume that it would end up breaking eventually. But it is what it is. At this point, it's still resistance, right? Solana, very much the same thing, right? We've tested the Stuber fib pocket resistance. I mean, you can see the structure is the exact same: low, lower, low, confirmed lower high. And obviously tested that Stuber fib, first target, Stuber fib, first target, Stuber fib, first target. So we haven't ever actually hit the second target yet with any of them, but basically the same thing as Ethereum, right? We keep testing that resistance and hitting the first target, and yeah, just not really seeing a ton of strength. However, same with Ethereum. Basically, if Solana ends up coming up to that resistance level again, eventually I'd assume that it would break if we keep testing that level. So I'd be a little bit cautious there, looking for lower time frame setups and stuff like that. But absolutely a possibility there. Hype, another one that this one's actually significantly different, but you guys know for a couple streams now I've been talking about the possibility that we come down and actually retest this bullish Stuber way down here. Basically just pulling this fib from this low here to the high of our big range here, ever since we basically ended up filling the wick from October 10th and reclaiming that level. Got an absolutely beautiful push there, and now it just seems like we're coming to retest that support. And even looking at the micro time frame here, you can see my yellow line. Notice that just since even getting this little bullish pivot here, Notice that this would have been our last, just on a micro scale here. That was a high. Here's a higher high, confirmed higher low because it's the lowest point between the two. There's my yellow line. And notice that we ended up breaking that. So I still have a feeling that it can go a little bit lower and end up retesting this support. But yeah, as we approach these support levels, I would be treating those as more of a buy level rather than shorting into that support, for myself anyways. Guys, I hope you are all doing fantastic. I hope this market volatility isn't really catching you too badly off guard. I hope you guys are not only surviving, but absolutely thriving. I mean, I really don't think the market structure has been doing anything all too crazy. It's just that, you know, when we lose higher lows, we start our little downtrends. And when we end up breaking lower highs, that's basically when we can start considering the possibility of bullish retracements, if anything, and just continuing higher. So at this point, depending what kind of time frame you're looking at, but all market structure, I always treat all time frames the same, whether it's the 4 hour, the 5 minute, the daily, the weekly, whatever. So nothing has really caught me off guard recently. Everything's been moving quite healthily, other than the fact that that healthy doesn't necessarily mean to the upside, like I said earlier. But hope you are all in fact crushing this. But yeah, anyways, guys, I think that's all I really wanted to go over very quickly today. So one last time, if you appreciate these live market updates, please do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And as a reminder, for those of you interested in joining my private Telegram channel, as well as free access to unlimited algo bot trading through Prime Automation, be sure to scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description down below. If the chart prime indicators I use interest you, use our sign up link and discount code in the description down below to receive a 35% discount on those as well. And with that, my friends, I'm out. Stay safe. Thank you so much for being here with me watching once again. And yeah, with that, I'm out. Peace out, my friends.